So hello, everybody. My name is Jillian Fortin, and I am honored to represent an amazing organization called Hello Alice. So we are an online platform and machine learning platform that connects small business owners with the resources and help they need to launch, fund, grow, and manage their businesses. And also really great for small business owners and entrepreneurs. We're completely free. So you can go to helloalice.com, create your free membership, and hang out with me every single day, where we can talk about topics just like this alongside almost 500,000 small business owners who are right there alongside you on this entrepreneur journey. And you are in for a treat today because I have some amazing folks who are a lot smarter on this topic than I am, who have come here, carved out an hour of their time to share their insights and their wisdom on how small business owners can not only protect their businesses, but also protect the information of the customers that we work so hard to acquire. So first and foremost, we have Julian Perez. And Julian, if you'll give us a little bit of a wave.
All right.
Hey, Julian.
And good afternoon or good morning.
Yes, good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you're joining us from. And Julian joins us from Coral Gables, Florida. He is the Director of Economic Development for the City of Coral Gables. In this capacity, he leads the city's business retention, expansion, and attraction initiatives. He is responsible for the pursuit of strategic investments and joint ventures that enhance the city's economic competitiveness and quality of life. So, one really awesome reason why I'm so happy to have Julian on the line with us today is that he has, Julian, in our brief conversations in the past, Julian, you have such a unique perspective on the needs of the small business owners. And a lot of times, small business owners don't know how to articulate what it is that will serve them the best. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself, Julian, and then we can continue round robining with the rest of our panelists.
Correct. Thank you so much, and welcome everybody. And thank you for the opportunity again to invite us and have us as part of this very informative and unique conference. I know that we're talking about cybersecurity. I know we're talking about economic development. We're talking about the small business and so forth. Basically, my background is in planning, urban planning, as well as I'm an economist too. And so that brings me to this position with a unique background and experience. And one of the things that we first saw, even before the pandemic and right into the pandemic, it was that the small business community, especially here in Coral Gables, was not really prepared for what was coming in terms of being able to adequately use the technology that was out there and the different platforms that were also out there to communicate with their customers as well as the supply chain, which is extremely important as we are seeing today. So that was one of the things that really caught our attention. And during the early phase of the pandemic, we moved very quickly to make sure that we had a very good understanding of that deficiency in our business community, especially in our small business community. And right away, we learned that a significant number, more than 50% of our small business, did not have this capability. And so that we had to move very, very quickly and design a program that not only addressed the issue of the issue of effectively communicating, but also how to protect themselves too. So, because there's no sense in, being able to introduce all this technology and at the same time not being able to educate them on the importance of, cybersecurity. And so along those same lines, we were able to put together a series of programs for our community. And we were very fortunate in one of those programs that in the area of cyber security training, we had Cyber Trust American and Len Jensen help us out during that early phase and through actually post or recovery phase, early recovery phase of the pandemic, and being able to train our community, especially our small businesses, in that area of cybersecurity, and being able to provide that information that was so great needed at the time. As a result of all of that, then we wanted to make sure that our businesses continue to be informed, and as a result of that, we had also a series of other programs available to them. For example, we had a digital boot camp that was also very important. Again, this is all part of the education, and that was followed by a series of other programs with the University of Miami to really, make sure that the audience or our small businesses understood how to, optimize all of the different technologies that was out there, and then eventually we really got into, and this is what we're doing right now very quickly, in the integration of economic development with technology, cybersecurity, and obviously, making sure that we continue to expand on our smart city technology, so that again, everything that we're doing, we're protecting our small business, and I'm, referring to the cybersecurity, which is really at the top of the list whenever we're doing, these type of programs, and taking our business community to the next level.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Julian. And more than 50% of business owners did not have access to the digital tools they needed. That is not a number that we can ignore, especially not in this day and age, especially not after having the pandemic at the forefront of our minds for what feels like ages. So I can't wait to dive into that a little more with you. So someone who is also very familiar with this is our next panelist, Kate Giovambattista. How did I do with that, Kate? Did I do okay?
Well done.
Awesome.
You nailed it.
Yes.
Nailed it.
So I am so excited that Kate has joined us today, because as the founder of Beyond Maine, which is a platform that brings convenience to searching, discovering, shopping, and supporting local businesses, Kate focuses on driving growth and brand value for companies. She has a ton of experience in creating solutions for small business owners and knows exactly what it takes to keep your information and your assets and your customers safe. So Kate, tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got here, and a little bit about the services that you provide through Beyond Maine.
Yeah, thanks, Jillian, for having me. I'm very excited to be here to talk with you all about cybersecurity, but also I think about a broader topic in general and just the digital economy that we're looking to sort of transition our small businesses and our communities into, usher them into kind of this new era, right? So a little bit about my background. I actually come from more of the retail and small business operational side of things. I worked for the Wrigley Company as well as consumer products, and so was able to touch a number of different businesses, from your mom and pops all the way up to your mass merchants, C-store, grocery, and everything in between. So got a lot of education experience on the retail side there with Wrigley, and then transitioned to Vera Bradley, which is centered more in the fashion, gift, and accessory industries. And so kind of took my learnings from the retail side with Wrigley into more of a different space and application. And it was really there. I spent about a decade working with our small business partners across the country. And that brand in particular was built, it grew to about a $500 million brand through Main Street partnerships. And I had the luxury of being able to kind of really be ingrained in that process with our specialty partners. Everything from merchandising to marketing to operations to training to sales, you kind of name it, we touched it with our partners. And so it was really my time spent there and noticing the shift in not just consumer behavior to kind of migrating into this online setting, but more specifically, the marketplace setting and how marketplaces were becoming this like really primary driver and gaining consumer attention, providing convenience and access. And when I looked at my small business partners, you know, they were really struggling to just adapt to the technology advances that were really accelerating around them, right? There weren't a lot of tools out there that were developed specifically for small business in mind that were low code, no code, you know, now is sort of the buzzwords, but that were really just turnkey, that kind of said, hey, this is what you need to get going. You need to focus on how you become omni-channel efficient, and your online is going to support your brick and mortar, and your brick and mortar is going to support your online. And that's really the symbiotic relationship that we need to try to achieve, right? Because when I would look at their overall sales, even if they had an online e-commerce presence, which, you know, back in the 2015, 2018 era, you know, it was still really only generating less than 10% of their overall sales. So the majority of their day-to-day operations and revenue was really still focused on that brick and mortar. And that's where their attention needed to reside. But the consumer journey was starting in a much different place, right? So it was beginning in an online setting. And that's where the disconnect really was not, you know, kind of connecting in the way we wanted to, or that's where the disconnect was. Small businesses were kind of being bypassed. And we wanted to create that environment where consumers could go as a destination, search, browse, shop, enjoy, and all the way through the journey of purchasing to and supporting the small businesses that were around them or nearby, or the locales that they love and want to visit. And so that was really kind of like the underpinning, you know, opportunity or problem that we saw out there in the market, was that this ecosystem didn't exist. And so a small team, myself, my co-founder, and our technology CTO got together and just said, what does this need to look like? And that's really sort of the question that we posed and how we launched Beyond Main. So that's exactly what Beyond Main is looking to do. It's to be a community hub, community-based hyperlocal marketplace where your small businesses can aggregate, and it can be a searching and discovering mechanism, a way for businesses to have and maintain that one-to-one relationship with their customers and neighbors.
I love that, Kate. And just like I mentioned with Julian, I cannot wait to dive into this a little more later on in our conversation. But we have one last guest panelist that I am really keen on introducing, mostly because he is a partner in crime and colleague over at Hello Alice, John Zeren. Wave to everyone, John. Hello.
Hey, everybody.
John Zeren is our Director of Engineering at Hello Alice. He has a really concentrated background in and passion for web application development. His experience covers nearly 2 decades in the software industry, following the evolution of web technologies, methodologies, as well as security and coding strategies. As a technical people and thought leader, he has worked with Fortune 500 brands to modernize their MarTech implementations across their web applications, content management, and e-commerce systems. And one of the reasons why I was super adamant on not doing this event without John is because I not only want everyone to walk away from today's conversation with a high level understanding of why this is important and, you know, strategically why this makes sense for your business. We're here to offer you with some tactical advice, things you can do after you log off, close your window, and go back to your restaurant or to your store, or go back to your office where your developers and designers work. And John is the guy to do that. So really excited that you agreed to join us, John. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your thoughts on the topic?
Hey, everybody. Thank you for the great introduction, Jillian. So as she mentioned, my name is John Zeren. I have a long history in software development. Actually started as a hobbyist in the 90s as a kid, really. So I've seen the evolution of web technologies from, getting on billboards, bulletin boards, and doing things like building GeoCity sites and AngelFire. So I kind of learned as a kid, and then I knew right away that was going to be the direction I took my career. So I got my degree in computer science, and I've been in the software development industry ever since. And excuse me. One of the very cool things that I've had the pleasure of experiencing is I've been in tiny businesses, small businesses, medium businesses, and very large Fortune 100 businesses in the software development space, having to worry about security at every turn and getting to watch how it evolves over the decades and the complexities that have come up over the years. And so happy to share my experience about that. And as well, even in the middle of all that, as I was working, I also started my own small business, a small e-commerce shop. And that's really where I learned a lot about, some of the things that, I really need. As the owner, I have the responsibility to take care of everything. So that really helped accelerate my knowledge in security matters, especially when it comes to e-commerce. So a little bit about background about me, and I'm happy to be here to help kind of guide the conversation in the technical sense.
Awesome. Thank you so much, John. So now I'm going to turn this back over to our audience. Head back over to the chat window, and I want everyone to answer with either a Y or an N. I want you to tell me whether or not you think small businesses need a cybersecurity strategy. I'm looking at you, Derek from Northwest Arkansas, or Kieran from Easy Bay, or Javier from Barcelona, Spain. What are y'all's thoughts? Jenny from San Francisco? Okay, Paul says yes. Karen says yes. Awesome. John, thank you. Chad? Okay, awesome. I think we're in agreement. Part of it is also, otherwise we wouldn't be here, right? So now I'm going to ask you a question that is free form and not yes or no. What does cybersecurity mean for small businesses? What is it? It can be a pretty broad term, but what does it mean for you? And here's where we cue the Jeopardy theme song. While y'all are working on that, I'm going to pose the same question to our panelists. And Julian, I'm going to start with you. This might be a no-brainer, especially after we polled the audience. But do small businesses need cybersecurity? And is
Absolutely.
it a must-have versus a like-to-have?
No, absolutely. It's part of the overall plan. And it's like, it's leaving yourself open. I mean, to having folks that are out there with their only mission in life to be able to ruin you, not only financially, but also personally. And, it's just, like having a business and keeping your doors open, and going home and not locking your place. So it's not a good idea. I think that even before you start, I think that that's one of the first things that you really need to be able to educate yourself. If not, find the right people, the right resources, and be able to incorporate that in the overall plan. Absolutely.
Awesome. Kate, what are your thoughts on whether or not it's a like-to-have versus a must-have?
Yeah, no, it's definitely necessary. But I think sometimes cybersecurity is a little bit of a scary word. And so I like to kind of reframe it as it's protecting your assets, right? It's no different than, as Julian was saying, locking, creating like the protective measures to lock your home, right? When you're not there, or the security insurance policies that you take out for your business. It's just another component of protecting your assets and building trust and instilling trust with your customers. So it just sort of needs to kind of be rolled into, I think, that broader conversation. And then it becomes a little less intimidating. When you say cybersecurity to a small business, I think they immediately jump to like, well, I'm not an IBM or I'm not a large organization that needs to worry about this. But there are certain things you do need to be concerned with.
Yeah, I'll just jump in real quick. I 100% agree, right? And I actually have the same analogy that it's cybersecurity is a virtual security, whereas you want to protect your cyber property the same way you would your physical property. And so the like to have versus must have, it's really not a question of if you'll be attacked. It's a matter of when, because it's a numbers game. And I think as you mature as a digital business, you can also mature your levels of security. So start by at least locking the door, then lock the deadbolt, then get the security system, and those kinds of things. But at least don't leave the door wide open.
Right.
Exactly. Don't make it easy. And I want to read some of the amazing responses we have received via the chat. So Derek shares, offload risk as much as possible. Cybersecurity means the ability to safely operate in the world and conduct business operations uninterrupted. Paul shares, understanding your risk and having the tools to mitigate the threats that are most pressing to your org. Kieran shares data protection, including user data and business sensitive information protection. And Rand says, protection against data breaches or ransomware. And if we didn't have a 4-panelist limit, I would invite all 4 of these folks to join us to share in this conversation, because those answers and responses are incredibly insightful and spot on. So thank you so much for your participation there. I want to pose a question to you, Julian. In your current role, you have unique insights into what small business owners need. When it comes to cybersecurity and digital trust, which concerns are at the top of mind for many small business owners?
I think that, again, it's probably a combination of both of them. Cybersecurity, again, and we just kind of talked about, it provides a sense of feeling that everybody that is involved in your communication process is secured, and especially their personal information. And that, once you lose that, I think you have lost a tremendous amount of credibility, not only with your clients, but I think that in the industry that you are dealing with. And that's something that you really need to protect in order to make sure that your business grows and it's a business that is successful and people can rely in having that relationship with you. So I think that that's probably one of the most important things. It's making sure that as you go along, you're building that trust, and it's not only building that trust, but is beginning to take your business to the next level. Okay, and how do you take your business to the next level? Especially when you're using technology. Again, you have to have a foundation, you have to have trust, and so forth. And so by making sure that your cybersecurity plan provides for that, I think that you're really beginning or you're really starting a business in very solid grounds.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Kate, you also have a really unique pulse on small business owners and what their needs are. What are you hearing from your community?
So, I don't think it's discussed enough directly. Maybe indirectly, the conversation sort of comes up, but I can share a story with you, actually. When we first kind of launched the platform, something was very interesting in terms of the business's resistancy to providing vital information that was required by law for us to actually capture to verify their business was a legitimate business and their identity with that business. And this is a part of kind of the overall payment, infrastructure gateway that we use. And so we encountered a lot of bottlenecking and resistancy to this from the small businesses wanting to be able or providing this information that we needed in order to keep them safe and secure. And so it was a struggle in the beginning. I think like there's a natural skepticism around giving information like that out there with their customers as well as with the small business owners. So I think there's some, in a good way, like hesitancy and cautiousness around some of these security type of approaches. But fast forward through, into 2020 when lockdowns began, and the only option businesses had was to take their physical kind of operations into a digital setting. And so the barrier came down pretty quickly. And now it's really kind of become like a smoother part of the process and helping them kind of get set up digitally. But that was a real barrier in the beginning. And I know probably prevented more adoption from small businesses bringing, their storefronts into the digital economy because of this like feeling like it's invasive, right? You feel like you're exposed and not knowing how the ecosystem works and understanding it. I think there was just some natural hesitancy to even take the leap because, it is sensitive information. And so I would just share that as like, it's been a really, a good education for me, and just watching the evolution of that happen so quickly, the comfort level going from very like minimal to like, now I'm comfortable. I got it. Like this is, they've kind of rolled with it. But it was a forcing mechanism that required it. So I would say the conversation's been getting easier. But small businesses are getting more in tune, right? They're asking the right questions now. Whereas I think there was just a lot of like hesitation in the beginning because of not understanding how things operate or what security questions they should be looking for, what policies and procedures within third-party vendors that they work with have in place. And so just, the evolution of understanding that over time and the education and learning curve, I think is continuing to happen.
Absolutely. And not just education on the small business owners end, but also empowering them to educate their customers as well. Like, here are some things in your, this is a funny anecdote as well, but my husband and I opened up a food truck a month and 2 days ago today. And in our, with our email marketing provider, we set up, the double opt-in. And last night I received an email from a potential customer with a screenshot saying that my website was hacked because she wasn't able to sign up for my email marketing newsletter because of the two-factor authentication. Sorry, not the two-factor, the double opt-in. Mm-hmm. And so that to me was a learning moment, because I was like, I missed a chance to educate my customer on the fact that we put this thing in place. And double opt-in is not new, right? It's been around for years, but not many are as strict about it. They're still like, yeah, I'll handle that later. But it was a missed opportunity for me to educate my customer on the fact that that was in place so I could keep her information safer. So, that for those of you, whether or not you're opening up a food truck or whatever small business you may have, these things, these additional measures that are in place are chances for you, Julian mentioned this earlier, to generate more trust with your customers, because you are going the extra mile to keep them safe. So awesome. So I want to pass the mic over to you, John. What are your thoughts on this topic, especially from a technical standpoint, whether or not this is a must-have versus a like-to-have?
Yeah, for sure. It's a must-have, right? Like I said before, I believe that it's a numbers game. And I think somebody in the chat actually talked about how threats are usually automated, right? And they scale, and that's the truth, right? People set up bots that can just probe IP addresses and things like that. So a lot of small businesses have this misconception that, well, I'm not a target, right? I don't make a ton of money or I'm not there yet. and maybe that's true in the moment, but that doesn't, mean that you're not a target, or an automated system can't find you and look for weaknesses and vulnerabilities. So it's absolutely a must-have if you're going to have digital properties.
Awesome. So now I'm turning the finger mics back over to our audience. So meet me back in the chat window, and I want you to honestly tell me, like, let's not front in front of each other. This is a safe space. But in your opinion, actually, let's do it this way. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most concerned and 1 being the least concerned, how concerned are you about being a victim of a hack? 1 being the least concerned and 10 being the most concerned. Very curious about this. Sirkon says 9. All right. Thank you for being the first. It's not easy to be the first to share this type of thing. Karen shares a 10. M. Jeffrey 6. Sherry 10. Sherry likes to err on the side of extreme caution. You and I are best friends there. Awesome. All right. So the 4 of y'all might be interested to know that in a recent study by CNBC and Momentive, the majority of small business owners surveyed said they were not concerned about being the victim of a hack. In addition, they were also confident they could quickly resolve any cyber attack. Julian, I would love to know your thoughts on this.
That's very interesting. Let me tell you that that would not be the case, especially if you're compromising the data of your customers. It can be a major headache. Besides being an issue that may get most of your customers very upset and perhaps have an impact in your business. To the point that you may be put out of business. So be very careful, okay? With that thought, that is my advice. Is always to, you always want to be on the cautious side. I mean, especially when you're dealing with other people's business, and be very careful. I hope that this discussion here probably change those people's view of that cybersecurity is something that we need to take very seriously, and because again, and hope I'm not repeating myself, it's not really about you. I mean, it's the people that you're serving, whether it's a business or whether it's government or any other entity. You always need to be conscious of others, and that's what we're talking about here. And so please don't take that perspective. That's my advice. Mm-hmm.
And that's amazing advice. Amazing. And Kate, I'd love your thoughts specifically. I think it is, maybe it's bold, but maybe it's also a response that is not based on knowledge of what a hack could look like. So how might you quantify the actual cost of a hack?
Yeah, I think a lot of literature that I've read kind of puts it in the 25,000 plus in terms of costs, because of all the auditing that would need to be done to just investigate the attack, what was lost, what was at risk. But I think the most disturbing statistic is that when a small business suffers an attack, 60% of them close within 6 months after. So it really can kill your business. And it needs to be sort of thought of through that lens of how am I going to prevent my business from being decimated and destroyed. And with some planning and considerate thought from the beginning, when you're looking at your digital infrastructure and security, then you could help increase your chances of when an attack occurs, it's not going to take you down. And so I think that's just, when you're doing your overall SWOT analysis of your business, it needs to be in the threat category, a serious threat category, and then mitigate it around like, what would you do and how would you get back into full business operations? What's your plan to get back into full operation as quickly as possible?
And
Awesome advice.
if I may
Go
add
ahead,
something, I'm sorry to interrupt. Just remember that a lot of small businesses is typically a young family, is someone that has already been in the market for a while, and they're putting in all of their life savings, and probably of some of your family members too. And are you willing to risk all of that by just skipping one step in the process, or making a very minimum investment in the process? That's something that I would like to throw out there for those that it really don't feel at this time that it's not something that they should consider. Many small businesses, have faced this situation, and it's very, very sad. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. You can't afford to not protect your investment. In the case of, my husband and I in the food truck, I talk about it a lot because as a small business, all we talk about is our small businesses, right? But we had to make the decision: were we going to buy a house this year, or were we going to start this business? Were we going to have a baby this year, or were we going to start a small business? And we were like, all in. We are all in on this dream. And so if you weigh the risks of this investment, we decided to forgo the house and the baby. Why wouldn't we protect the other thing, right? So it depends on perspective. So that's a really, really fantastic point, Julian. And John, I want to pass the mic over to you from a technical aspect. So a couple questions here. Once upon a time, way back, and I think you brought up the GeoCities and the Angel Fire days. And I'm pretty sure I had some fan and poetry sites on GeoCities back in the day. That definitely ages me. But back then, a hack meant that we were just going to be down for a little bit, like out of service or whatever. It's not the case now. So when we say cyber risks, what do we actually mean? And what is at stake when we use that term?
Yeah, no, I think there's several things to consider, right? You're right. The history, there wasn't quite as much at stake, right? In the early days, it was almost more informational, right? So from the marketing side, you're pushing some content, but now we're interacting with people. Things are more transactional, and so from even if you're a small business that doesn't have an e-commerce presence, but you have a digital presence and you are doing marketing or advertising online, you're likely trying to do some lead capture, right? So even if you're just in kind of that zone, you're still at risk of kind of the old school, bringing the site down, DDoS attacks, some kind of site injections or takeovers, or something, more recently in the news is like clickjacking, people being able to basically mimic your site and have something that looks like your site, and then they fool people into clicking and interacting, and it's branded to your site, and then they can sort of take over. And I think that's on the minor side, right? So if you really just have a content site and you're trying to do some lead capture, I mean, you're looking at either having your digital property down or maybe risking the contact information of the people that sign up. But then when you get into e-commerce or transactional sites, then it becomes a lot more complex. And so you need to take payment information. So you could be putting people's credit card information at risk by not securing that. When they're signing up to make payments, they have to identify and match to a card. So you're collecting personally identifiable information, or PII. And there are actually regulations and laws that say there are certain ways that you have to treat that information. So even if you have a bright idea and you just want to throw something on the web and collect some money, guess what? There's now laws and regulatory things that you have to comply with. And so then that even leads into compliance. So even above and beyond just securing your site from hacks, you also now have a duty and responsibility to people to be in compliance with the law that protects people's information. So I think Julian said it best earlier, where it's not about you, it's actually about the people you serve. It's definitely both, right? I mean, you're the small business owner, you got everything on the line here. But as you are handling people's precious information, whether it be payment information or identifiable information, you now have the onus of treating that information properly and to the best standards. And I think some of the risks may be obvious, but you could have things as simple as again, your site being down, your property being down, but theft of IP, right? So it's not, even if your website is fine, people can get into your network and maybe steal digital assets or things that are unique to your business or secrets or things like that. So those are risks, as well as loss of business revenue, right? We talked about digital trust. As soon as you have a breach, people are hesitant, right? I know whenever there's a big breach report out, I make sure, do I have an account? Do I need to lock things down? Do I need to check my accounts and things like that? And it's a cat and mouse game, right? Everybody should be doing the best they can to protect things, and then the bad guys are out there trying to break in new ways. But some of the risks, like I mentioned, site being down, theft, IP, compromising people's information, but then also the threats, again, that's wide ranging, right? It goes back to the what is the cost of a breach. And it could be minimum. It could be a nuisance. Somebody's just messing with you and your site's down for a few minutes or an hour, or you have a lot of spam and you just have to deal with that. And that's a minor cost. But then the major cost is, not only is your site down and you're losing business, but now you're in the middle of lawsuits because, that information was stolen and sold and you're responsible. And so it could not only damage and ruin your business, but it could also ruin you as an individual financially, because then you have the repercussions of having to continually pay for lawsuits and things like that down the stretch.
Thank you so much. And I want to keep the mic in your hand, John, because we have a great question from Olwafemi from Canada in the Ask a Question window. So this is a fantastic time for me to reset the room a little bit and remind everyone that we aren't just here as a panel with a ton of questions to ask one another. This is not like this planned echo chamber where we just want to hear ourselves talk. The main purpose of this conversation is so you get all of your questions answered. So I want to thank Olwafemi, who was the first and so far only one, but remind everyone else that this question and answer window is not off limits. All right. So this is a fantastic question. And I think it is super applicable with so many small business owners going this route. But Olwafemi asks, what are security considerations to provide assurance for small e-commerce businesses leveraging SaaS platforms like Shopify, Wix, Facebook, etc.? John.
That's an excellent question. And I think part of the answer is, right, you as a small business owner, you're the expert in your business, right? You're not the expert in cybersecurity, like we said. And part of navigating that journey is making the right partnerships and being able to trust certain tools, right? So this is where I would highly recommend making sure, one, you got to do your research no matter what tool or platform you decide to go with. Definitely do your research, but then also, you have to kind of have trust and faith when you're using vendors and tools that they can do the job right. Things you might want to look for are, are they PCI compliant? Are they SOC 2 compliant? As you partner with them, they should happily provide you the reports to these things to show you that they've been audited, that they've been battle tested, and that they can properly handle your data. So, I think as you go into those different tools, platforms, partnerships, do the research, see if you can get in contact with somebody from their legal department, or, even people from the sales department should be able to track down the documentation that says, yes, you can trust us, and here's why, here's our certifications. So I think absolutely small businesses need to find trusted partners and tools that they can use. But they also, do your homework, right? Make sure that they're up to date, that they're compliant, and that they too can be accountable should something go wrong.
Yeah, I would add something to that. I'm sorry, Ken. I would add something to the excellent explanation. I would say that you may want to, contact your in your city the IT department and the IT director. I think that's another place that you really want to start. There's municipalities throughout the country that have excellent programs, and we have seen some of those folks in our conference yesterday and today, and they'll be more than happy to help you and more than happy to direct you to the right source. And and it's not going to cost you anything. That's the beauty of it. And these folks are very, very helpful. And at least you have a place that you can start, and you're going to start with a lot of information.
Fantastic suggestion, Julian. I want to pose a question to anyone, John. But John mentioned this. Just for folks on the line who may not be familiar with these terms, what is PCI compliance? What is SOC 2 compliance? And why should small business owners care?
John, I think you should take that one.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yep.
You'll explain it much better.
Right.
You made your bed, John.
Yeah, no, so I apologize. I always have to look up the acronyms. But I think, at a high level, right, those are different levels of security compliance, right, that are standards, right? And so they're similar but different. Those two things attack different angles of the security side of things. But those are the standards that you typically want to track down if you're dealing with financial institutions or handling credit card information. So those are good terms to look up, and get the acronyms exactly. But those are the standards that we abide by at Hello Alice and every other organization that I've ever dealt with that deal with financial information. So I will also, the disclaimer, right? I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know exactly, what T's to cross, I's to dot to make sure that you're 100% legally up to snuff. But following those standards will ensure that you're in good standing.
You'll have to forgive me for putting you on the spot with those acronyms, John.
Oh, good. I shouldn't use them if I
couldn't resist. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pose one last question for each of our panelists. And it's going to be, I'm cheating. I'm totally cheating. It's a two-part question. I will start with you, Julian. What is one actionable thing, or several, you can add more for like potpourri, but what is at least one actionable thing that our small business owners on the line can do today to take a step forward in their cybersecurity strategy? And the second part of that question is, what are some last bits of advice you may have for them?
First of all, the answer to your first question is very simple. Educate yourself. Inform yourself. Okay? Search for partners. I think we kept saying this several times. Coming from the public sector, I strongly recommend that you reach out to your IT department. There's a tremendous amount of information, and people that are willing to help you. As to the second part, the second question, can you repeat that again? The second question.
Yes, this is the feel good part of the question. What are some last bits of advice or maybe words of inspiration you may have for a small business owner as they're about to trek through this leg of their journey?
Sure. And I think that the future is very bright. I can tell you that we're not the same as of 19, 20 months ago. We're right now implementing technology that one time we were planning to do 5, 6 years from now. So it's very, very exciting. I can tell you that 20 months ago, I was probably building the downtowns of a city here in Miami-Dade County, very prominent. Basically a city, a whole city. Today, 19 months later, 20 months later, you see me talking about integration of technology into economic development and all the things that are coming. But with all of that, there is a word of caution. Technology can be good and technology can be challenging. So make sure that you're always protecting yourself. And you start protecting yourself by protecting your assets. And when you protect your assets, you're paying attention to the issue of cybersecurity. If there's one thing that I hate the most, is to find myself in a conversation with a small business that put everything into that business and find themselves that they have lost everything. So make sure that you make technology work for you. It's very exciting, but just like anything in life, make sure you protect yourself. All right?
Awesome. Thanks, Julian. Kate, over to you.
Sure. I'll echo everything he said. And actually, Yusuf kind of took the words right out of my mouth. Like, identify your crown jewels, your assets, right? Protect them, lock them up. And I would say also internally, like, I think this is a topic like that's important for our small businesses is just like who has access on your back ends. From like staff support and like making sure they have their own logins. You're not sharing information, that internally because in retail, a lot of theft is actually sometimes from internal. So you just kind of have to kind of keep even protective measures in place inside your business as well as for your consumer facing, partners. And then I think like, I know these are like kind of scary things we're talking about and nobody, really wants to have to like mitigate an attack. But the thing that I'm really encouraged by, and I hope you all are as well, is like we're living through like a really big phase transition, right? Period. And we have the opportunity to build the future for our small businesses and for our cities and, design the ecosystems that we want to like be a part of, right? So I just kind of leave that as like my final thoughts is that, just really think about the future you want to build and you have the power to do that now. It's sort of a blank slate and we're kind of putting all the pieces together. So find the support structures around you, work together collectively and, make things happen in your business and in your community.
Perfectly said, Kate. Perfectly said. And John, with a couple of seconds to spare, what are your last bits of advice for our small business owners?
I would just say don't make it easy for an attacker, right? So there are some common sense things like strong passwords, protecting passwords. I've known people that actually literally write passwords down and tape it to their laptop. Don't do stuff like that, right? So, but have strong passwords, look at password manager tools, antivirus, encrypt your drives. There's a whole bunch of things that you can do easily on your own. So don't make it easy. If an attacker has any trouble or a bot, they'll just move on. So just don't make it easy.
Perfect. And my last bit of advice, continue attending forums and community events just like this one, where we can continuously share new bits of information with one another. As you know, technology changes every single day. And what this means is the threats change every single day. But the brain share increases the more we speak with one another, the more we talk to one another, the more we trust one another. So I want to thank Lan, who has joined us on stage, for the opportunity to just hang out with like-minded friends and individuals across the country. On behalf of Hello Alice and the rest of our panelists, it has been such a pleasure talking about this topic we're all so passionate about.
Indeed, I want to thank you so much for such a powerful session with vision, real down-to-earth tips and resources that small business owners can take and run with. So thank you so very much. We ought to do this again, as you said. And
you know
also,
how to reach us.
Yeah. And one last message is that it may seem a lot. And that's why some professionals have now banded together to want to do some hand-holding for small businesses. And so for that, go to the next sessions and hear from small business owners themselves to see their journey, how they have found the helpers working with them together and what came out from their perspectives. So without further ado, thank you all so very much for being here today. And may we all thrive, because truly small businesses are the backbone of the economy. So when they thrive, we all thrive. So thank you again.